So today I'm going to show you how to make a hummingbird feeder out of burned out solar light, but it's going to be different than some of the others I have done because this one's going to have a dot. It's going to be a planter as well as a hummingbird feeder with a perch. Now, I haven't showed you how I put on perches. See the perch there, the wire? The thing is, did I waste my time or did the hummingbirds use it? And that's what you'll see later because I wasn't sure myself how this was going to work out. But what I did was I removed the top because the light no longer works. So we got to get rid of that in the proper way. And then I bought some sample paint. Now, this I bought online. You can go to Home Depot, buy the paint, and a lot of times they ship it to you for free. So for about $5, you get the color you want. Or you go get the Oops paint at Home Depot for like 50 cents, but you'll never know what color you're going to get. Now I paint up the top where, the light used to go through. There's no more light, and we're going to use the color of our choice. Let me give you some tips and tricks on a lot of this. The brush I'm using is a makeup brush. They work fantastic. We'll talk more about the brush in a minute. Now what I'm doing is I'm making holes because I want to attach a silk flower to it. So you make a hole with a soldering iron and you push the hot glue in with your glue gun. Then you push the flower. This one's got a little stem, but it doesn't matter if it's got a stem or not. What you are developing for that flower is a rivet. A plastic rivet. You can put a little bit more hot glue on the inside there. It won't matter because we're going to fill that up with soil and put a plant in it. Then you can decorate it around with the flower with other plastic pieces from leftover projects you may have. I use a mix of plastic and silk flowers around here. But the rivet, you can't get that flower off unless you rip it out because now it is riveted in with plastic from your hot glue gun, which you're going to have set at high. Now you can trim it any way you want. You can go back and zhuzh it up, whatever you want to do to make it look good for your garden deck, wherever you're putting it. Now you're going to need 2 of those little food containers. Some people call them ramekins. And you're going to paint them, but never on the inside. One of them will be painted red on the outside. The other one won't matter. And if you don't finish it up because it's wet, and I'm always in a hurry, you can always touch it up once it's all put together. Now the second ramekin is where we're going to put our food, our nectar in, and that you want to only paint the top. Don't paint the inside. These are food safe, so you don't want to put paint on the inside, but the outside won't matter. Paint it up with red paint or whatever color you want, but I generally use red because the hummingbirds gravitate a lot of times towards red. And then you're pretty much done with this. So one ramekin painted red, that's going to be fixed to our solar light, and that will never come off. And the other one is the one that will come off, and I'll show you how that works. Now you could glue it to the top if you don't want to make a planter, but I'm going to glue it to the side, and I want to lift it a little bit because I want it to sit there as straight as possible so it doesn't drip. If it leans too much, your nectar might drip out just a little bit. But this is a stake, so you could always adjust it by leaning it one way or the other. We're going to make a hole in both containers, a hole in your ramekin as well as a hole in your solar light. And we're going to try to match them up. Now we're going to develop another rivet. We're going to shove that glue in there. Look at that. And we're going to bring it out on the outside there. Now we're going to take the container, the ramekin with the hole, and we're going to push it. See on the inside of the ramekin, you got that little bulge there of hot glue? And you can add a little bit more. Let's not add too much because we want the other ramekin to sit in there straight and flush. We've now developed a rivet. So the only way this is going to really fall apart at that point would be break. Now we want to put a hole on the bottom of this ramekin only because this one could get a little nectar or water in it. We want to make sure it drains out. Sometimes they leak a little bit in there or it might rain and get water. So this way that will always be dry. And that you can put a hole on your solar light in case it's not draining for your plant. That's it. See how it sits in there? This is really cool. Now you've got a little planter for a succulent plant because that's the only thing I'd stick in there unless you want to put more silk flowers in there. And then you'll be able to feed the hummingbirds. And you can touch it up later on. Now the top, once it's dry, you can make 1 or 2 holes. And I should have done it from the back side because the side you push down is never the smooth side. But go back and clean it up afterwards so it's nice and smooth, the hole. And there it is. And I have had 2 hummingbirds at one time feed out of a dot. So a lot of times I put 2 holes there in the dot top. Now you can paint it up any way you want. You know, put a little yellow circles around it or flowers. And keep in mind, your silk flowers, if you've got them out there, like this one's almost 2 years old, you can touch it up with a little yellow paint and it looks as good as new, because this was a yellow daisy, but you could also change the color if you want. Again, let me talk about most of the brushes I use. They're makeup brushes. They don't lose the hairs. Why? Because nobody wants to put on makeup and have their brush falling apart on their face. I have found those to be the best brushes to use for painting. And I get those at Dollar Tree or whatever. It doesn't matter. And look at that. We're done. It's all set up besides putting a plant in later. Now I'm going to show you, though, how to put on the wire perch. Yes, thin, flexible wire. These hummingbirds are so tiny, they sit on the edge of a leaf. Not the leaf, the edge. So we're going to take some flexible wire of any type. Go ahead and get it at the craft store. And then kind of push it in where it's glued in. There'll be a little space there. Don't worry about, how tight it is yet. Push it in the way you want it. See, on both sides. That's all you need to do. And then what we're going to do, once we get it the way we want, don't glue anything yet until you get it exactly where you want the wire. And remember, it's flexible. So once it's secure in there, you can still bend it around. So I like it the way it is now. Now I'm going to take my hot glue gun, set on high, if you have a low and high temp, and we're going to glue it all around the wire up against the base of the solar light. This will hold that wire in there in place. So just slowly get in there. Don't worry that it's moving right now because it's not set yet. We can set it by running it under cool water. But right now the glue is still warm and soft. Now once it's set, it's flexible to bend in any way you want. Is that not cool? You can kind of bend it to the shape you want. You can make it a little wider. But the thing is, you want to make sure that you've got more wire than less wire, because you can always reshape it if you've got a little extra wire. And that is it. We are done. See, the hole for any water or fluid that gets in there will drain out, and your planter will have a hole as well. It really looks cute out in the planters. The idea of throwing this away, I think it looks nicer now than it did when we originally bought it for $1.25 or $1.50. So don't throw your old solar lights away, because we can make the cutest planters as well as hummingbird feeders. And now we've got a perch. Now see how the ramekin will drop in? That is what you're going to do, is take it out, wash it when it's empty, and then drop in a new one or drop the same one in after you clean it. But that's all there is to it. Now a bird can actually sit there. Now, will they sit there? This is like one of the first times I've actually put a perch on a tiny dot. See, they use the dots all the time. They just flutter over it like a flower. But when they come over to use the ones with the perches, it took a while to them, to understand that it was a perch, and they still have been coming to it and using it like they do the regular dots. In other words, they look at it as a beautiful little red flower that's got a lot of food in there for them. And remember, I make my own. Oh, and here, this is how it goes in. See how it got a little nectar in there because it was tipped a little bit, so it drained out? That's okay. The bottom cup will not get full. It'll drip into your plants. And let me tell you something. Your plants love sugar water, so don't worry about that. Now they can come. And I stood out there and I watched for a while. I was out there with my camera, my good camera, and they were coming and feeding. This is a little female, and then later on a male came. That was a male Rufus in the back. But they hadn't used the perch. This is where I'm deciding on how many perches I'm going to put on my dots. Now for the hummingbirds here, I make my own nectar, which is 1/4 cup of sugar, white granulated table sugar, and 1 cup of water. That's it. Now here's a beautiful anise. Again, he's not sitting on the perch. So I started to wonder, I can't sit out there, for hours. How long will it take? And of course, when I set up my Wise Cam, which isn't the best camera in the world, here came a Rufus, and he did sit down. Of course it's going to be a Rufus. Why? Because of the toughest little birds here, and they take over whatever they find when they like it. So he must have decided this is the way to go. And I want to show you a little bit in a few moments behind the scenes, how I keep an eye on a lot of my hummingbird feeders around here, because I want to know what's going on. But this was just so cute to watch. He decided this was the perfect thing, and now he's kind of taken over this feeder. That's what happens when you put a perch on a single feeder. But see my multiple cameras? I can watch them come up and see if anybody came to it. And this, it's like I said, The Wise cams, your security cameras are not the best. It's always good to use, like I have a Sony camera I use. But whatever cameras you use, the point is we can watch the hummingbirds and we can see now that maybe a perch is a good idea to add on. It doesn't take much. It doesn't cost much. So I hope you enjoyed this. I'm hoping I'm giving you ideas on feeding your hummingbirds, adding on a little extra like a perch so they'll sit around here like this one did for a couple minutes and just hang out. Tell me what you think. Are you going to make any? Do you think this was a waste of time? Should I put on perches? I think I will. I think I'll mix them up and some will get perches and some won't. But don't throw away those solar lights because they last for about a year. And then next spring, everybody grabs them, throws them out. Oh no, you'll have something better than what you started with. With that, have a wonderful day. And don't forget to eat what you grow. And don't forget to leave your comments because I love to read through. And sometimes I get ideas from you too. Bye-bye. And just as I was going to render this video and upload it now, here came a little female hummingbird. Is that not cute? I'm waiting. What is she going to do? She's sitting. All right, if she wants a perch, then I'm going to start putting perches onto a lot of my dots. Cool.